So we're going to be talking about e-commerce growth and success, and in particular influencer marketing and how we see that change and how to capitalize on that for 2022 and beyond. So my name's Tash. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bolt Digital, which is a UK leading performance marketing and e-commerce growth agency. And joining me is Rosie.
Hi, I'm Rosie. As it says there, I'm not the whole creative team, but I work on the creative team at Bolt Digital.
So what we're going to be covering today is we'll give you a brief intro about Bolt Digital and what we do and how we grow the e-commerce revenue contribution for brands. We'll be talking about the 3 key levers for e-commerce success, which is a very simplified way of looking at e-commerce growth, but which really helps people understand the actions they've got to take. We're then going to be talking about influencer marketing and how that industry is today and whether or not there's a broken influencer marketing model and how we recommend approaching influencer marketing. We're going to be talking about our Creator Combinator program and then sharing ways to stay in touch with us and giving you a code to attend our upcoming e-commerce conference at the beginning of October. So first of all, a bit about Bolt Digital. We're a UK leading agency on D2C or e-commerce. The work we do surrounds paid social advertising, e-commerce consultancy, financial modelling and creative production and UGC. We also run a twice per year conference called D2C Live, and on the back of that we have a large community of brands. So people who join our community basically get to meet and network with other brand owners. We make introductions to them to tech stack partners so that they can improve their e-commerce tech stack. And depending on the brand and what they're looking to, we also can make introductions to private equity investors and M&A companies, which lots of people are interested in if they're trying to raise investment and or looking to exit their brand. Bolt Digital became most known for the work we did with a brand called Absolute Collagen. Has anyone heard of Absolute Collagen? Is anyone a subscriber? An Absolute? No. So this is a brand that actually I met the founder at an event similar to this, and we grew it from £1,000 a month to well over £1 million a month. It was recently valued and took in private equity money, an investment of 43 million from basically a single product brand. Some examples of other brands we've worked with. Delilah, a predominantly retail-based brand selling through professional salons and skincare clinics. One of the CEW's winning brands of 2022 and a best-selling beauty brand in Fortnum & Mason. So we have scaled their account and growth substantially over the past year. Another makeup brand called Sculpted by Amy, which we have launched and grown primarily via TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And a brand called The Inky List. Has anyone heard of this brand? This is quite a well-known. Rachel's on my team, so she's not allowed to say yes. So The Inky List is a brand owned by Unilever, pushing up towards 100 million in revenue. We have trained and supported their whole in-house e-commerce team as they've grown to help their in-house e-commerce team really optimize their growth and really take control of that brand. We also won an award from TikTok. We won TikTok's Agency Arena Award. So these are the common questions that people ask us every single day, which is how do they scale their e-commerce revenue? How much time do they need to invest in their e-commerce platform? And what are they doing right and what are they doing wrong? And how much money can they make from e-commerce as a channel? And the bottom line is it's a really, really tough channel and getting a lot tougher. So this is a graphic we created a few years ago to show that the e-commerce channel was very complicated with. You can see it looks like the London tube map. Every line on the tube map is a type of activity you can do in e-commerce, and every station is that activity broken down even further. So we're really going to be talking about a tiny part of that line today, which is, I don't know what line this is in real life, actually. Is it the line we're on, the Olympia line? Is that the line we're on, this one, influencer? Or is this tube map just completely wrong? What line is that? Anyone know? Because I don't actually know which one it is in the tube map. We're going to be talking about that, a tiny segment of your overall e-commerce activity, which is influencer marketing and creators. So before we go any further and dive deeper into influencer marketing and creators, and Rosie will be talking about some of the pain points and solutions associated with creators, Whenever we look at e-commerce brands, we think about what we call the holy grail metrics, or the 3 key levers that basically underpin an e-commerce brand. They're the three primary financial drivers of e-commerce success, which are basically, what does it cost you to acquire a customer? How much is that customer going to spend at their first order? And what is that customer's value over time to your business? So through deploying this quite simple framework, we're able to quickly identify whether brands are going to be successful or not, and which of these issues they are winning at or losing at. And just to give you all some reassurance, we never, ever, and we've worked with hundreds of brands, we never ever see a brand where they have everything perfectly lined up. Every brand in the world has either big problems or an area to improve on one of those 3 key levers. So for instance, you might have a brand who struggles to acquire customers, but once they have a customer, those customers are very loyal. More often, particularly in this type of segment of consumer products and lifestyle products, we see brands able to acquire customers, but those customers either don't spend too much or don't return. So we see a lot of disloyal customers really going and buying a single product off a brand and then never returning again. And of course, everything that we do and everything that you guys do is against a backdrop which makes digital landscapes tougher than ever. So you'll all have probably heard about tracking issues such as iOS 14 and seen shifts in the popularity of Facebook and how consumers are thinking about and behaving on Facebook. So we have issues with tracking. We have more and more digital spend, which basically means costs of advertising go up. That's a natural function of supply and demand. And now we have an extra force, which is the cost of living crisis, meaning that consumers are going to be increasingly discerning about what they spend their money on and what brands do they buy from. We've long said, actually, that there's an oversupply of brands in the world. The period of time since 2012 through to where we are today has seen a huge amount of venture capital money and going into brands, and also a huge amount of democratization of product creation and marketing, which basically has resulted in a situation where we have a huge number of brands around, and there will inevitably be fallout in the upcoming period ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me? I am not used to talking into a microphone. The person at the back is nodding, thank you very much. So creators and influencers, I guess 2 terms that are used quite interchangeably, and there is significant overlap. If you're sitting there wondering what the difference between those 2 people are, you are not alone. Many people don't know. So I'll do a brief summary. I suppose a content creator I would consider as a creative person who is quite passionate about creating engaging content, often that's educational or inspiring. They work with brands in the same way that influencers do, although I would say influencers are probably less diverse in the content they make. Influencers ultimately drive purchasing decisions, which is why as brands and advertisers, we like them, but ultimately we love both. So a quick show of hands today. Please can you raise your hands if you've ever thought about using influencers or creators, that is if you have a brand. Brilliant. Keep your hand up if you're already using influencers and creators, a few people, and then keep it raised if you feel as though your campaigns have been successful. Great. Good. I'm pleased. So honestly, we could sit here until next week talking about an array of impressive influencer stats, but I won't bore you for too long. I'll just pick out a couple of my favorites, which I think really say volumes. So 61% of consumers are likely to trust recommendations from a friend, family member, or influencer, which means that just by staring at those small little screens and seeing somebody pop up on a regular basis, we now trust total strangers as much as we do our nearest and dearest. And then secondly, I'll pick one of these. 70% of teens trust influencers more than traditional celebrities and the media, which I think if you're someone like me that grew up wanting to have hair like the female celebrity in the L'Oreal advert on TV, you'll just know that there's been a generational shift, right? So perceptions have changed, and that's something that as brands or advertisers we need to be aware of. Next slide, please, Tash. So as the influencer industry continues to grow, things for brands actually get more and more difficult. So some common issues that we're being faced by now are a reduced return on investment in terms of paid social, Influencers are no longer performing as well as they used to. Their posts simply aren't bringing as much back. Some brands are just facing a complete lack of human-facing assets, which makes them simply they can't stand out from the crowd. And the costs are rising, much as we're experiencing every asset of life at the moment. Costs are going up, and we are getting less and less for our money, specifically in terms of usage rights, which come along with content.
Has anyone experienced any of these particular issues of costs rising for influencers and less ROI coming from influencers? Yeah. Okay. Actually, when we get to the Q&A, we can talk about influencers and costing and how they price themselves. Yeah. So I think when we look, broadly speaking, at what we see the role of creators in a D2C mix as being and where they come in, I mean, when I look at it, my background is traditional media. I used to be the health editor at the Daily Mail and have worked on lots of national newspapers and magazines. I think I see them very similar in the way we see PR. So with PR, there's a sort of understanding that you want to have PR, and occasionally you're going to get a massive hit and it's going to be a huge success. But along the way, you'll get lots of other bits of coverage, which may or may not work, but overall have some sort of positive impact on the perception of your brand and your ability to say, oh, I've been in this magazine and that magazine. So influencers really are very similar to PR, which means there's a slight risk around them in that it may or may not work. I think we understand that with PR, but when it comes to influencers, we sort of expect that it's going to work in the way a scalable traffic source such as advertising or paid advertising does. We therefore see a need to protect against that risk. So we see that influencer activity should be run by brands. It's hugely valuable in the same way as PR. But at the same time, you want to have assets because those assets are very authentic and powerful when they're deployed back across everything else that you own and operate, i.e. whether that's your paid advertising campaigns, your email marketing, whether it can be whether they can be presented in a storefront and point of sale merchandising. And the other thing that we see with creators and influencers is that hit and miss thing. They can be very, very good, but equally we have a lot of brands come to us and say, some of these are quite famous brands actually saying, oh, we want to move money out of creators because it's not working, we're not getting any ROI, we want to move all money out of creators. And it's like, no, you shouldn't do that. You just have to have an understanding that when they're good, they're very, very good. And when they're bad, they're not so good.
So on the screen there, you can see what is our kind of representation of a traditional agency influencer model. So you probably can't read it from there, but starting from the top, you've got essentially an influencer posting sponsored content on their platform. This turns into top of funnel content, so it raises brand awareness. They have an audience out there that trusts them, thinks they're a credible recommendation, and ultimately this drives a purchase, which you can see at the bottom. So these purchases are made off their organic platform, and if you are an agency or you are a brand, essentially you're monitoring KPIs such as reach and engagement, so essentially how many people saw that ad and how many people interacted with it. Although this is typically what influencer agencies are doing, Bolt Digital believe that this is fundamentally flawed as it no longer delivers the return on investment that it used to.
And what we're going to be talking about is the difference between soft metrics and hard metrics. So this is a classic soft metrics approach where you're getting some nice stuff, i.e. some influencers creating content and posting it for reach and engagement, possibly traffic. But all of that is a soft metric, as in it's cool. But actually, let's be frank, business owners want to sell their product, generate revenue, and see their businesses grow. So those soft metrics are nice, but not really necessarily revenue-driving metrics.
And if you are operating on that model, you can come across these typical issues that we see with influencers. So the difficulty of running campaigns where the content just isn't performing, which, to be honest, if you're running soft metrics, you don't get a lot of data back from that. You won't understand why your content isn't performing. Influencers refusing to cooperate. Some of them are difficult, not all of them, but some can be as their status grows and so does their following. How frustrating it can be when an influencer or a content creator creates content that then cannot be redeployed as other assets in paid social or just simply isn't a format that works for your brand. Or when an influencer tells you that you cannot remix their assets, the usage rights are very low. So for example, they might create a piece of content for you, but you're only allowed to use it 3 months and therefore you can't deploy it on your website and you have to take it off your social in that specific time frame. So without that permission, without an additional charge, you can't get much else. Would you like to?
So I think this is all a function of the way the industry's been, where it's been over, like so much in life presently, there's a sort of over-excitement around it, and now it's time to pull it down and get real and kind of get as much value as you can from influencers or creators. So they really, influencers and creators have had quite a lot of power, as they should, but they also have to understand that brands need to have assets and they need to be able to maximize the value from working with the influencer as best as possible. So we have sort of tried to turn the creator program on its head, because nearly all the brands we work with have creator programs running, whether we're running them or whether another agency is running them. So instead of selecting influencers for reach, i.e., oh, this is whoever and she's got X number of followers, we select them based on their fit, their creative ability, and their commitment to understanding that you also need maximum ROI outside of their posting. You need full usage rights. So yes, they post, and we want to get soft metrics like reach, engagement, video views, but we also want assets that we can use. So we want them to act as a creator for the brand and hand over the full set of assets in the same way you would expect coming out of a photo or video shoot, where you get given all the raw material that's been created from your shoots. And we want permission to deploy those assets wherever possible. Again, exactly the same as a standard photo shoot. You don't go, well, some brands go into photo shoots and come out with 10 photos and no ability to get access to the rest of the photos or to access them without paying additional fees. In an ideal world, you go into a photo shoot and you then get handed over every single photo and video that was captured at that event with full copyright for you to use for as long as you want to use it.
And whereas a traditional approach may look at an influencer and choose an influencer based on size, we go for a persona approach. So does that person resonate with the brand? Will their audience resonate with the brand? Are they a good representation of the ethos of the brand? Trust me when I say with influencers, you can probably see the numbers on the screen there. A micro influencer that resonates with an audience can get just as much return as a mega influencer who happens to have 1 million followers but has nothing to do with the ethos of the brand. It's very important nowadays, as it always has been, but more than ever, that consumers want to really feel relatable. They want to relate to the people, and they will buy off people they relate to, people they trust. Follower count is getting less and less important.
Yeah, and just to add to that, actually, another thing that we're seeing which will diminish the power of a follower account and allow a wider accessibility to creators and influencers is the way the TikTok algorithm works compared to other channels. So who is on TikTok organically at the moment with their brand? Yeah, and who wants to get onto TikTok? Who thinks, Jesus Christ, not another channel? Everybody. So I
thought that once.
We still do, right? I think what's really interesting about TikTok is the way the algorithm works. So on the other platforms, the algorithms are based on followers and network, i.e. the more followers that you have, the more likely you are to reach more people, which basically means, and this is where this influencer categorization would come from, i.e. if you want to reach a lot of people, you have to go with a macro influencer with 500,000 followers, because they are going to basically guarantee your ability to reach, say, 300,000 people. What's different about TikTok is the algorithm works based on what they call it a content graph of culture. So it works based on engagement, entertainment, and how how your content lands at that moment. So on TikTok, I don't know if anybody saw, there's a brand called Peter Thomas Roth, and there was a post that literally almost put them out of business in terms of they sold out of all their stock and couldn't handle it, with a woman who had about 200 followers posting a video of what this eye serum did to her eye bags. And it just showed that it's nothing to do with your follower account. So in terms of how many people you can reach. So when we're working with creators on TikTok, each creator has 3 videos that have to be produced because we want to maximize their chance to go viral. They understand the way the algorithm works and know how to do that. But what it means is you don't need to be working with massive, big tier creators with 500,000 or 1 million followers in order to get huge reach. As long as you're working with a creator who is able to create the right content and go viral, you can have the same reach out of what we would call a nano influencer. So really, this approach is about how do we get the best of both? How do we get the soft metrics that we all know and want from influencer campaigns, i.e. reach, engagement, visibility at upper funnel? The good news is even if you're working with someone on content creation, the very nature of a personality or someone who does content creation is they do want to share your stuff. So they're probably going to share your things anyway. If not, then we negotiate a deal that basically goes content creation first. You are going to post this. You are going to post it on your organic platform, whether that's TikTok or Instagram, so that the brand gets the benefits of impression and reach. So you've got the PR element there where you're getting impression and reach. However, that's not where it ends, because if your product doesn't go crazy and sell off the shelves as a result of that post, then you want to protect yourself from the downside risk, at which point we get all the assets, ability to edit the assets and do as we please, and ability to deploy assets as often as we like following that influencer campaign. So it also solves a lot of the problems that brands have in terms of UGC, being able to put stuff in their newsletters, in their paid advertising campaigns. And really that is a combination of two strategies: gaining assets off creators, gaining full usage rights, and upper funnel exposure. Next, for brands that are working with us on our influencer program, those assets then get bought into paid campaigns. So an omni-channel approach. I mean, we were talking years ago about how omni-channel was key, and it's never, ever more true than today. Every time a platform comes along and gives us that feeling that TikTok's come along and there's a whole new channel to deal with, it basically means our attention as consumers is more and more fragmented. So we're now diving between, and I don't know, you only need to think about your own journeys on your phone, and most probably you're going between email, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube and Safari. Is that a journey that anyone recognises as their daily activity? Anyone got any other channels?
WhatsApp, with 8 hours of WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, WhatsApp, but there's no sort of, yeah. How many hours are you on WhatsApp?
Oh, maybe 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all know as consumers that's how we're behaving, so therefore we can expect the consumers that are buying from our brands to be behaving in the same way. So the omni-channel approach is key. And, oops, didn't move on both sides. And the way we look at it is brands need to see and hear, which basically they need to see your content on these visual display channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. They need to hear your content on auditory channels, Spotify and YouTube. We then try through the types of content to make them feel, which means feel emotion, learn something about the brand, learn why it matters, learn why it's important. How can we evoke more emotion? How can we make them care? And finally, learn. So in the absence of content that is profoundly moving for brands, then we would deploy educational content about the products being sold by the brand in question. So we have a Q&A coming up, and Rosie and I would welcome any questions you've got. But before we do, let me just briefly share how you can work with us and also give you access to our Shopify conference on October the 6th. So Bolt Digital works with people in 3 different ways: through consultation, agency services, which are either outsourced agency services or training in-house teams, and finally our community and event series, which is our conference and then networking events with brands. So this QR code will take you to our newsletter list. You can sign up, but even better than that, wait, so if you guys take a picture of that.
You changed it.
Did I change it?
Did everyone get a picture there?
Did everyone get a picture? No, wait. We have on October the 6th our Shopify and e-commerce conference, which this year is sponsored by TikTok. So TikTok will be there themselves talking about how to master this channel. We also have various brands who are really trying on TikTok, such as Benefit Cosmetics, are going to be there talking about how they are ascertaining how much time and resource to put into live shopping on TikTok. Other brands such as Lick Paint, which has disrupted the paint category with e-commerce. And now I'm trying to remember the speaker list. We also have brands there. We also have venture capital funds and brands pitching for investment. So we do have a discount code for people at Top Drawer, which you can see there, Top Drawer 50.
Question time.
So question times about influencers, creators, TikTok, e-commerce. Does anybody have Any questions? Right, there's a mic coming around.
Thank you for great presentation. What about TikTok? Because our scarves are premium. It's 315 pounds. And my coach just screaming at me, TikTok for 18 years old kids.
In terms of the amount of the age people are on TikTok at the moment?
Yes, because 315 pound scarf is not for 18 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the case. In fact, there are some stats on our other deck which we do, about who's on TikTok. So the audience share of older people is growing. What I would say to you about TikTok is, has anyone read the book The Fog by Stephen King? No, okay. It's about a stealth-like fog that creeps over. I can't remember it. I just remember the concept of this fog creeping over the land. TikTok itself is making huge advances quite quietly into the UK and bringing in more and more attention in terms of people spending time on it, watching it, and more functionality and support and brands. So yes, a few years ago, TikTok was a channel for young people and it was previously Musical.ly. That is absolutely not the case there. There's more and more people. Rosie, are you getting the exact stats?
I can't find the deck.
Okay. I think it's somewhere over 50% of users are over the age of 30. The other thing about TikTok is you're not going to see it you're not going to go on TikTok and immediately crush it as such for your brand. However, what we do have is an opening for first movers, which we last had in 2016, 2017, when it was first movers on Facebook and Instagram. The way we built Absolute Collagen was via Facebook. It was a first mover, digital first Facebook brand. That window of opportunity closed. We now see that opening up again in a different way via TikTok. So if you are a brand that feels you missed out on first mover advantage on Facebook and Instagram, you probably did. You actually have that window of opportunity open again now via TikTok. It's a different type of first mover that's required. It's a live streaming, QVC presenting, entertainment content type of thing, but we will see hugely valuable brands arise out of that channel in the same way we did Facebook and Instagram a few years ago. So yeah, but the downside of it is it's a massive resource. Who's trying TikTok currently? Are you finding it demanding resource-wise in terms of content creation? Sorry, say that again. Hang on, wait, we're bringing a mic over so you can tell everyone.
I've noticed that you have to be very regular or
Yeah.
it just falls off. So it's just, it needs a lot more consistency.
It does. It's a resource. It's all these things, there's like plus sides and minus sides. So that's classic. It's a huge resource drain. But equally, at the moment, the cost of it outside of the time you put into creation is relatively low because the advertising costs are lower. You don't even need to advertise in the way you do on Facebook and Instagram. So you've got to weigh up getting first mover advantage, where you think customers are likely to be in the future. Does that channel sit with you? Do you like it? And then, are you able to put the resource into it that it requires? Sorry? It does work organically. That's the opportunity that's open with TikTok at the moment, is an organic opportunity. But the content creation is hard, as in the content creation needs to be regular and it's not easy to get it right. So nothing in life is free. So you're not paying for advertising, but you are putting brain power and production into content creation. Well, we'd have to look at her account to ascertain why, because I can't comment without seeing it. Maybe, yeah. I don't know, but I don't know. But all I know is there is an opening for brands for first mover advantage on that platform if they can get it right.
I'm really sorry about my ignorance, but I didn't know about first mover advantage. Is that something that you have to apply for? Or is
No, I mean in terms of if you want to go large on that channel.
Yeah.
It's not a saturated channel in the way that Facebook and Instagram are currently. So if we look back to 2017 or 2016, where a lot of the really well-known digital-first brands, so if you look at, say, Gymshark, Huel, Charlotte Tilbury, Absolute Collagen, all these brands that we think came out of nowhere, well, A, they didn't. They put a lot of hard work into understanding Facebook and Instagram. But it is true that they launched at a time when they were first into that position, or one of the early ones into that position. So they had first mover advantage. You could never do what those brands have done now by launching onto Facebook and Instagram. Even if you had a shit ton of money, you wouldn't be able to do it. It would be incredibly, incredibly difficult. So they were there at the right time, and they succeeded. There hasn't been a chance like that, which is why growing brands has become so expensive. There is now that opportunity on TikTok only. So if you believe that TikTok, and I do because I see what's happening, but if you believe that TikTok is a vortex of attention, if you look at the stats and say people in America are already spending more time on TikTok than they are Netflix, which tells us it is a vortex of attention, and then you see how TikToks are developing e-commerce functionality, then you can add that together and say there is an opportunity on this channel to be a digital-first TikTok channel type of brand and really succeed whilst others aren't there.
Yeah.
But the others will come.
Yeah.
You know, when the big retail brands arrive, they will put a load of effort into it.
Thank you.
Hello. What do you think about the more people will follow your channel like TikTok? But is this really related to how many you sell? How many profit you gain? Yeah, is this more follower will get more chance to get sales? But sometimes it's not really related. Sometimes successful channel, but not really increase the sales.
TikTok.
In terms of,
Or other platform. Like,
do we believe that necessarily the more followers you have, the more sales you make? I don't think it's always as clear
No,
cut as that.
it's not as clear. If only it was as purely logical as that. There's all sorts of factors at play in terms of what makes, from what the brand does content-wise, you know, is it able to get followers? Are people following for one reason, or are they following because they want the products? Through to then factors that are nothing to do with the brand, really, like consumer behaviour, what consumers like looking at versus what they're actually prepared to put their hands in their pockets and pay for. There's all sorts of different factors at play, so you can't directly align followers with sales.
But I think it also comes back to that omni-channel opportunity in terms of TikTok is one thing it's fantastic for is brand awareness, because you can display yourself as a brand on that channel in no other way that you can, like on Instagram and Facebook. It's the realms of creativity you can use on that channel far transcend what we've been able to do on other channels. And I think if you can get somebody to relate to you on TikTok and then they also happen to be in your email marketing funnel, or they also happen to see something pop up elsewhere, you're far more likely to convert them because they have related to you on a more personal level on TikTok, which is what I see a lot with brands. Over there?
I might not quite be on the right subject, but is Pinterest, is that still, are people still doing that?
Yeah, they are. So when we look at channels, we classify them as primary channel. This is paid advertising channels, so it's not always an organic opportunity in terms of the work we do. We classify them as primary channels and secondary channels. So Pinterest has always been in a secondary channel status. I mean, for some of the brands here, particularly interior ones, may be very well suited to Pinterest. If we look at the brands we tend to work with, they would be primarily using Facebook and Instagram with the secondary social, Facebook and Instagram and Google for advertising, with the secondary social channels being Pinterest and TikTok. What we're seeing is TikTok take a step up, or not quite yet, like it's still in a secondary position, but we do believe it will take a step up to be a primary channel. So what do you sell? Because it might be very well suited to Pinterest.
I sell sculpture. So
Sculpture, yeah, so it's probably very well suited to Pinterest, and we have Pinterest in a lot of the work we do. What we have never seen with Pinterest is it take attention and sort of visibility and time on platform in the way TikTok has done, or in the way Facebook and Instagram have done. But it's a very clear niched channel for a certain type of product, of which yours sounds like a great fit. I think there was another, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
When it comes to TikTok versus Reels, should you be using the same content or creating separate content for TikTok and Reels?
So it depends on how creative you are and how much resource you've got and how much you want to put into it. But I suppose speaking very generally, we see that content created for TikTok can be moved back across the other channels and perform well. We don't see that content created for Facebook and Instagram, particularly the news feed, can be moved onto TikTok. So if you're looking at minimizing production, then I'd say go TikTok first and deploy it back. But, you know, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, Reels is a direct rip-off of TikTok, you know, so there's a lot of similarities between that. And interestingly, with Reels, the exact same functionality of it not really mattering how many followers you have has come into play as well, as in you can have a very low follower amount and get very high reach through Reels. And that's Facebook trying to have the best, you know, trying to basically have the network effect and also have the surfacing up interesting content ability. Which type do you do generally?
Both. Yeah, it's just knowing if to recycle the content on one platform or another, or use different content to reach different types of people as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough for brands to have to create different content for every single platform. Like, it is not easy. So if you can do that, then do. But if not, just recycle as much as possible, yeah.
I think it's really easy for us to think that our audiences are paying attention to us all the time and they see every ad and therefore they would know if we recycled it. But the fact is, a lot of the time they won't. Recycle as much as you can, like, because resource-wise it's going to do you a lot of favors. You know, change a headline, maybe change one image in something if it happens to be a carousel or whatever, but you can get away with a lot of recycling without much guilt.
Thank you.
Also, this is going to sound like a big plug, but in terms of questions about TikTok, our newsletter constantly has features on what we recommend for TikTok. Since winning an award of them, they are lovely and they pass on lots of like insider bits and information, and that's all published in our newsletter every week, which you will be able to sign up to on our website, which is somewhere.
There's the QR
There,
code.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, weekly, really good insights in there.
Yeah, we're quite obsessed. It's interesting that, you know, lots of you guys are asking questions about TikTok because it shows the kind of level of interest in it, but also the level of kind of confusion and sort of not knowing what to expect from it as a channel. Is hashtags important on TikTok? The hashtag is important for getting found. You've also seen all this stuff about people using TikTok as a search engine, supposedly young people. But just actually, who does use TikTok as a search engine, if those of you who...
You do. See,
I mean, I do. So I would say it is happening already. So hashtags are very important for getting found in the TikTok search, as is the title of the content and the caption you write, as TikTok pivots itself more into a search engine.
But also in terms of the creativity, the best thing about TikTok is it's encouraged to jump onto trends. It's actually encouraged to basically make the same video that someone else did. So if you don't feel like you've got creative resource to completely ideate new things, just follow a few pages, see what other people are doing and remake it. And the beauty of creative on TikTok is it doesn't have to be as polished as we see on other channels. Yeah. It can actually be a bit rough around the edges. It can be funny that way. And you won't get slandered if it's not perfect. So yeah, creative is good, but you can also repurpose what other people are doing, basically.
Hello.
Hello.
This is a split question. First one, if you're directing traffic from a content creator, are you using UTM tags? Alternative, if you're using an affiliate program, which are you using, which is preferable? And are you using Shopify Collabs yet as well? So that's kind of part of the second question.
God, you've asked 3 questions.
Sorry.
Affiliate programs, we're not in affiliates, so so I can't comment on that. UTM parameters, use wherever you can. I mean, they don't work properly. Nothing does. You're asking a question about attribution. So yes, use them, and then you can bring that information into analytics. In terms of attribution, the best software we have seen is a platform called Triple Whale. Do you know Triple Whale? Yeah. So that is one of the best solutions we've seen, but it's not a solution. Okay, so there isn't a solution, but it is a relatively good one comparably. And the third question was about... Shopify Collabs. We're using TikTok Creator Marketplace, actually. So that's another a really useful platform to source and find creators who are good fit for your brand, all done within TikTok. Does that help, sort of? Okay, are there any other questions? Last one. Sorry.
Regularly posting on thank you. Because really, like I said, what I found for us, very small business, it's very difficult somehow to get brand awareness. I mean, organically, because we need to start somewhere. And with all these crazy prices, influencers didn't work for us. Because, well, if it's wrong influencer and they have 250,000 followers, people were writing, "Oh, I wish I could have money to buy your scarf," you know. So we got huge traffic, but it didn't work. So that's why I start to look where we can move organically. Creativity, I have huge, and but it's really you have only 24 hours and you need to sleep. So I found with Instagram, you need to spend hours daily, just to move this forward. And with TikTok, when we talk regularly posting, how often regularly? If it would be twice in a week, would be this enough?
I mean, I have to direct back to that tube app. It is, growing an e-commerce brand is tough. No, twice per week, if you want to see content going viral on TikTok, is not enough. That's why we're talking about, you know, the resource required to operate and succeed at that channel. But obviously people only have 24 hours a day, and you know, e-commerce is competitive, complicated and technical, and requires a lot of production as well. So I feel your pain, but you need to post more on TikTok if that's a channel you want to develop.
3 times in a week or each day?
Twice a day. If you look at what creators are doing who are growing fast, they're posting 3 to 5 times a day. So that's the level of investment they put into production if they want to accelerate TikTok. You don't have to do that at all, but that's what some people are doing. So that's the content production you're up against. I'd start by trying to do every day, but even that's hard when you're under-resourced. I completely know that. Cool. Oh.
How do you find the performance of TikTok advertising? So that would obviously overcome the requirement of creating so much content every day, right?
Yeah, and I think ultimately when I look at what will be the solution for TikTok longer term for brands, I see a kind of triad where you'll have organic content production and trying to go viral and all that sort of stuff. You'll have advertising, which will give a degree of underlying predictable stability and visibility. And then I believe you'll have live shopping as well, which we haven't even covered today, which is another resource issue. So I think long term we'll see those three will be the kind of underlying pillars of the brands that are successful on TikTok. In terms of advertising, it depends on the brands. I mean, we have quite a lot of campaigns live on TikTok. Soft metric-wise, it's good and it's cheap. Performance-wise, we see that the makeup brands that are naturally fit within that ecosystem do better, and they have costs of acquisition that are lower than Facebook. However, that's not the case for all brands. I also believe there's a low attention span on that platform, as I'm sure we all know if we scroll through it. So that's the forces you're fighting. But if the product's the right type of product, we're seeing better results on TikTok than on Facebook.
So we've got a silk pillowcase brand, which is quite on trend with
oh yeah, they're really on trend. What's it called?
Mayfair Silk.
Mayfair
Silk.
Mayfair Silk. Does it help you look younger when you sleep?
The customers seem to think so.
I can't believe you just said that. Obviously the answer is yes.
Of course. So like cotton absorbs 27 times its weight in moisture.
Right.
So when you sleep on it, it's basically dehydrating your skin.
I mean, I've seen all the stuff, it's crimpling and, you know.
Yeah, silk is hardly absorbent and keeps your natural moisture within. So it basically has hydration and anti-aging properties. Yeah. So yes.
And are you running adverts on TikTok?
No, but considering it, yeah.
Where are you running your adverts on Facebook and Instagram?
Facebook, Instagram.
I mean, I don't know without looking, but that sort of product is the right sort of product for that environment. So you'd have to run. I mean, we have a TikTok accelerator test where we test them because lots of people say, is TikTok going to work from a paid advertising point of view? We don't know until we've run it, but that beauty category does do well. Right, are there any other questions? No. So listen, thank you everyone so much for coming today. Really appreciate it. It's really interesting to hear how many questions there are about TikTok. Make sure you've signed up to our newsletter, and hopefully some of you will come to
the conference and talk to
come to
TikTok.
the conference. Yeah, come to
They're
TikTok
gonna
will be there. Come and ask them these questions.
Come and grill them.
Also, Benefit Cosmetics will be there talking about live shopping and how much resource they're currently starting a 3-week test to determine how much resource they should put into live shopping. They're going to be unveiling the results at our conference, but I think that's a question that we all need answering as well. So I'm super excited to hear from them.
There's also going to be a goodie bag if you're not already sold.
Yeah, apparently it's now worth £150 a goodie bag. So
it's worth turning up.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Anyway, thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. Thanks.